There has been nothing more terrible in Irish history than the failure of the last generation. Other generations have failed, but they've failed nobly, or failing ignobly, some man among them has redeemed them from infamy by the splendour of his protest. But the failure of the last generation has been mean and shameful, and no man has arisen from it to say or do a splendid thing in virtue of which it shall be forgiven. The whole episode is squalid. There has been nothing more terrible in Irish history than the failure of the last generation. Other generations have failed, but they've failed nobly, or failing ignobly, some man among them has redeemed them from infamy by the splendour of his protest. But the failure of the last generation has been mean and shameful, and no man has arisen from it to say or do a splendid thing in virtue of which it shall be forgiven. The whole episode is squalid. It will remain the one sickening chapter in a story which, gallant or sorrowful, has everywhere else some exaltation of pride. If nationality be regarded as the sum of the facts, spiritual and intellectual, which mark off one nation from another, and freedom as the condition which allows those facts full scope and development, it will be seen that both the spiritual and intellectual fact, nationality, and the physical condition, freedom, enter into a proper definition of independence or nationhood. Freedom is a condition which can be lost and won and lost again. Nationality is a life which, if once lost, can never be recovered.
Hello there, folks. A bone-chilling reading of a Pádraic Píris speech or writing. I'm so ignorant of my own history, I don't know which one it is. Welcome to the AntiPodcast. Someone had asked me, do I cover Irish events, Irish society, etc. And I thought, that's a good idea. I see a few, very, very, very few out there on YouTube that actually do this, and they're just so alt-right and black pill, and it just it's tiring to listen to, even though on occasion they'll make a very good point about something that's going on. They'll get to the root of something. But particularly when it comes to the live stream kind of situation, they're very rambly. And it's repetition kind of rambling. Yes, we've heard it all before. This is terrible. The whole place is falling to pieces and we're all being overrun by black and brown people. Woe is us. Okay, let's move on. Let's actually get to some substance. Now, in saying that, that's very hard to do. So I'm going to at least try, okay? Alright, first up is, I think I can take these headphones off because they're making me very uncomfortable. Jesus Christ. How are you all doing out there in listening land? First of all, I've got to ask all one of you. Here we have to put a positive spin on the beginning of this. Now, this isn't Ireland. This is Cornwall in the UK. One of those little places in England that not only used to be a country, it all used to be countries, but they actually remember themselves as having an identity. And this is at the cornerstone of any society, and this is how you get something like this. Farmers stand in silence at auction so a young man can buy back his family farmhouse. So basically, I didn't tell you exactly how they lost the farm, but they did. I guess through the banking cartel, right? So it went back up for auction. They scraped and did everything that they could to actually be able to afford the farm, up against, a regular crowd for a agricultural land. When they actually got to the auction, they placed the bid for their old farmhouse, and all in attendance fell silent. They refused to place a bid. Now I bring this up mainly because I wish that we had more of a spirit like that here in Ireland. And I think that put to the test, some of us do. I'm not really going to rabbit on about this very much, but just remember that there are good people out there. There are people who remember who they are. Let's move swiftly along. This is wrong. Furious Miami showband massacre survivor blasts Drew Harris's appointment as Garda Commissioner over MI5 links. And it's terrible that it's the Sun that we had to go to for this story, because I think the media are really trying to gloss over who this guy is, Drew Harris. And anyone listening from across the pond or on the continent, a Garda basically is a policeman, policewoman. Gardaí with an I, fada at the end of it. It's plural for Garda. So, Garda Commissioner, we have one over the whole island, and the new guy, well, he's British, and he served for the RUC, the very tyrannical police force that oversaw the Troubles, and were just as vicious as the military, just as oppressive of the Catholic underclass at the time. Now, this guy, Drew Harris, he was involved in something that's been dug up now. We just know it broadly as collusion, where MI5, the RUC, the military basically gave guns, names of people, bombs, and intel to terrorists, loyalist terrorists, so that they could kill hundreds of innocent people. Now, the thing is that, it wasn't like they were going after IRA people. To the contrary, they were going after ordinary people. Ordinary people who were about to make something of themselves, that were about to rise above the the average standard of their local community, make something of themselves, become influential. Because more than anything, the British establishment feared influential people rather than people with guns and bombs. Drew Harris was a key player in this collusion. And here we have him being appointed to our Garda Commissioner post. The outrageous thing here is that nobody seems to be saying anything. It doesn't seem to be an issue that is on people's minds very much. Actually, everyone's more interested in the Pope. Either, I would say, fairly legitimately, they're happy to see him and such. That's legitimate. But way less legitimate is to just constantly fucking complain and make jokes about it. If these people actually cared about justice, then they would care about this dreadful appointment of a genocidal maniac to head our police. Alright, next up we have Sally Noggin Community Action, a Facebook group that just made a statement there on the 16th. So yeah, it was over a week ago, but this deserves looking at. There's a building here which has been occupied. Think Occupy, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy London, Occupy Dublin, Occupy Galway. We had them as well here in Ireland, but instead of a bunch of socialists with absolutely no idea of how to fix the world themselves, we have parents, righteous individuals in the local community that are pissed off that basically their centre, which is basically right next to a primary school, will host sexual offenders, or even people who haven't sexually offended, but rather men and maybe some women, who knows, who have pedophilic tendencies. This is going to rehabilitate them. This is therapy for them. Now, there's a sentiment out there that you can't fix a pedophile, so, we should just dig a big, deep hole, throw them all in there and set it on fire. I personally don't feel that way about them. But the problem here, that these folks who are occupying this building and using it as a kind of a drop-in kind of community center, brilliant idea, brilliant use of it, their problem is that it's so close to their community. And I agree, it could be way, way far out somewhere else. It could be out in the mountains, somewhere where they're not close to children. These people, and just like anyone else with a particular sexual attraction, if you see a man or a woman, whatever it is that you're attracted to, you're going to be aware of your sexual attraction, to put it bluntly. It's going to be in the front of your mind. Actually, come to think of it, is this their thinking? That whole mechanism in psychology, the idea that gets someone to confront their problems. If so, then that's pretty fucking disgusting to use children in that way. So they put out a statement here, basically pointing out that they occupied the building to stop this from happening, stop this center from being established. The guy had a lease, I think maybe it was for a year or something. So he eventually decided, although, he had the lease and it pained him much, he eventually decided, hey, look, I'm not going to have this here anymore. It's okay, I'll withdraw. So the community withdrew their occupation until a while later they moved back in. So of course the local community followed suit and reoccupied the building. So that's... I haven't heard much news beyond that, I think. Let me just click on through to this, just for the sake of making sure we have all the facts here. Come on, man. You can do it. Our revenge will be the laughter of our children. I love it. Okay. No, this is just rude, man. Get out of my face. Okay, see what I'm doing here? If you ever want to get rid of something obnoxious on the screen, just right-click that bugger. Inspect element, depending on what you're using, and just delete the HTML. Okay, what are we looking at here? "12th of July, okay, that is not fresh at all. Here we go again. Get out of my face. Delete. Goodbye. Okay, here we go. Day 8 of peaceful occupation of 10A Church Place, Sallynoggin. We await confirmation from Paul Murphy of Parl Murphy Investments, Killarney legal team, with proof that Dr. Patrick Randall of FPS tenancy has been terminated and that we can no longer operate his sex offenders clinic in our communities. That he can no longer operate. We also trust Paul Murphy will make better judgment in the future on who and what he leases his premises. Solidarity. Very good to get that update, that when people stand up and take righteous action, then we get results. Now let's go see our last item of interest. Yeah, here we go. Sinn Fein are not nationalists. Okay, so we have this problem here where since anyone living can remember, Sinn Fein was the party. They safeguarded the interests of Irish Catholics up in Northern Ireland. There was a political divide between themselves and their paramilitary wing, the Provisional IRA, with the original IRA. The original IRA thinking, well, you can't like broker your way into freedom with these people on their own chessboard. I think that turned out to be true, because just like it was found at the end of the Troubles that 2 out of the 3 heads of the IRA in Dublin turned out to be MI5 agents, I really have to wonder if Jerry Adams and the rest of his fucking clique aren't MI5 agents themselves, because they've turned an about face. Of course, they were always socialists, but they were always the community building type socialists, and always fought the corner of the man, up until recently, when they've turned into a bunch of fucking SJWs. It's absolutely appalling, folks. This is from Burkean Journal. I really suggest that you check this out. It's if you want your finger on the pulse of Ireland, Burkean Journal is probably near the top of your list, if not at the top of your list, for the actual news of how our society is faring. Sinn Fein is a party with an illustrious and often controversial history in Irish politics. A long time ago, it was the force behind our struggle for independence from an empire that has treated us with brutality for century after century. After it split in the 1920s, it took almost 80 years for it to emerge again as an elected force in Irish politics, first in Northern Ireland, where it took over from the SDLP in representing the nationalist cause, and then after the economic crash, it began to grow in the Republic. If you want to learn much further, you got to read this. And it will be in the description, by the way. Shit, I should have added all these links to the YouTube description, shouldn't I? Well, look, it's episode 1 of the Irish News Roundup, okay? I bet you can hear that music down the hall. Shit, sorry. I'm going to make mistakes, folks. Zero Infinity. How's it going, Zero Infinity? Good to see you out there in the chat. Should I wrap things up, or, should I just wrap on a few other issues? Your thoughts, please. I'm well happy to stick around for a while and give some further thoughts and things. I do believe, Zero Infinity, was it you that suggested or asked if I cover Irish issues? Well, if it was, then this is the reason I'm doing this. I played a piece from Pyrrhus. I'm getting distracted by that sound out there, sorry. It's great. It sounds like fun. Live music, live rock music. I played a piece by Pyrrhus there at the beginning, discussing the failures of the Irish people to uphold Irishness. He described that, you may destroy a government of a people, but it will rise again, because as much as one generation might fail, there will always be at least one person or one group of people there that will hold on to what it means to be Irish, what it means to be whatever the nationality may be. And he was very appalled with the current generation, and that was back in the early 1900s. I wonder what he would think of this current generation, honestly. I wonder if he would consider us hopeless. He gave the grim forecast that any people, as soon as one generation passes where there is no one individual or group holding on to the identity, then the nation will not come back to life any more than a dead man can come back to life. When I look at what has been going on in this country in the past year, particularly, I'm very frightened. I'm very unsure of where we might be going. I don't think there are any heroes to stand up for us anymore. What I have noticed is that there's a strong Catholic contingent that, despite the referendum results of May 25th, basically allowing abortion on demand and potentially up until birth, potentially, and the further referenda that will come up in this year, further taking apart our constitution. Despite that, or in spite of it, a large contingent of Catholics have been switched on, and they're pissed off, and they're getting ready to take their country back. But I think it's going to take a little more than Catholicism to save us. Because I love my Catholic friends, but they're kind of silly, silly in that I get the whole thing of where Jesus came and then he, I think it was like 4 of his disciples he turned to and said, here, the church is me and I am the church, keep me alive in the world and spread my gospel. And the whole idea is that there should be a fixed line of succession all the way from Jesus through his disciples down to our current day popes and bishops and priests. But, what if all of those people today are corrupt? I don't think the Catholics are very good at turning around and saying, hang on a minute, you're all a bunch of corrupt assholes. This is not the Church of Christ. So, I think they're kind of afraid of being Protestants. Not that, the alternative is to convert to the Church of England or something. No, what I'm saying is to protest, to protest against the church. You are a Protestant. If you go off and form your own group, you are a Protestant. You have betrayed Mother Church. I can understand that logic, but it doesn't help. And it's not a mentality that's going to liberate Ireland. It's not necessarily going to help us reverse the damage that has been done to our people. Because frankly, it kind of sounds like a slavery kind of mentality. You can't fix a slavery problem with a slavery mentality. Sorry. It's ridiculous. There are no timestamps in this live chat. So when somebody says something, clearly in response to something I've said, I can't figure out what it is that it was in response to. I have my eyes on too many moving cogs here doing this live stream, so I couldn't really catch what 40 million people killed. That's where. Probably is where we're going. I don't know. Zero infinity. What are you referring to? Some kind of New World Order plan to wipe out a considerable number of people, or some vicious war between Europe and all these Muslims? I think just to avoid me being caught for hate speech here, and I do believe this, these people are being used as pawns by a middle player that would like to see the Middle East destroyed sufficiently enough that it can be paved over and then malls built everywhere, and McDonald's and Coca-Cola can be sold to all the children, and to see Europe destroyed because we're too powerful. Soviet Union, speech control and censorship. Yeah, and a lot of people have been saying this in live streams and videos on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere. It's being said, but not said enough, that the people who supported the Soviet Union and, in a really bizarre sense, Maoist China, they thought it was the greatest thing. They really did. They thought they were doing everything right. And they allowed these draconian measures, the initial draconian measures, the kind ones that are being imposed upon us now, they were all up for that. But I'm pretty sure that a few years down the road, when, you know, they themselves suffered at the hand of the Soviet Empire, then they kind of second guessed the horse they backed. But yeah, I guess back then, you know, in the Soviet Union, you didn't have the internet and you didn't have television even. You barely had radio. So you're not going to be hearing about 10 million farmers starving to death somewhere west of where you live, a few 100 miles west. But the sad thing is that, you know, terrible things can happen to large groups of people, and you can have it come up on your Facebook feed, and Facebook will graciously provide you with counter narratives underneath the post saying, "Does this really happen?" With a link to fucking, what is it, Snopes. Snopes, run by a guy that turned out to be a fucking criminal in the end, and spread his own lies to suit his own narrative. I have caught out that website myself lying many times while debunking something that has been going on around online. So if horrible things are happening to people, how do you know if they are? And how do you know that the powers that be aren't just trying to convince you that they're not? Excuse me. This is a lovely amber ale, but God, it makes me gassy. Thirsty ferret. Zero Infinity. I'm from Lithuania, but I live in San Francisco. Is it San Siaco? I don't know if you didn't spell that right or something, but I tried. Yeah. Who? What generation are you a part of? Zero Infinity, may I ask? What was it the case where, you know, your father was like an ardent socialist, and you know, was there a kind of a come to Jesus moment for your family? On another line of conversation, the Pope is visiting tomorrow. Yes, San Francisco, California. Good, glad to get that out of the way. Yes, the Pope is visiting, and the whole country is just so angry about the whole thing. They're livid about it. Because of all of the pedophilia and such that's going around in the church, which honestly I can't fault them on. Let's see this other opinion piece by Burkean Journal, an agnostic perspective on the Pope's visit. If you ask me what I remember about 1979, I'd be hard put to remember many significant events beyond Margaret Thatcher coming to power in the UK, Jack Lynch being replaced as Taoiseach by Charlie Haughey, and one of the darkest days of the Troubles when Lord Mountbatten and two young men were blown up on a boat in Sligo, and 18 British soldiers were killed in Warren Point in simultaneous IRA attacks. For me, this period was all about CB, Citizens Band Radio, a rebellious fad which was sweeping the country at the time, and about music. I worked on a pirate radio station in Limerick and spent my Saturdays helping out in one of the city's record shops. For me, 1979 was above all the year when disco vied with punk, by then called New Wave, for my devotion and my hero David Bowie unforgettably took to drag for the video of Boys Keep Swinging. What may look tame now was considered outrageous then. The visit to Ireland by Pope John II largely passed me by unnoticed. A few years earlier I had opted out of the Catholic Church as I simply wasn't a believer. This display of teenage rebellion was a major disappointment to my devout Catholic mother, who later suggested it was a significant contributing factor to me coming out gay. For me, it was nothing personal against the Pope when I decided to stay at home and not join the 400,000 people who attended his Mass in Limerick. It wasn't so much a defiant boycott as I couldn't be arsed, as I had steadfastly ignored the bombardment of daily updates on the visit for weeks in advance. In those days of Holy Catholic Ireland, there was no dissent. This was a major event, and daring to suggest otherwise was a matter of heresy, treason, or both. Move the clock forward to today, and we live in a very different Ireland, undoubtedly different in many ways, but certainly not all. Today we see people rightfully questioning the exorbitant cost of the latest papal boondoggle, and whether the millions of taxpayers' monies would be better invested in other ways. However, some of the rather cynical linking to the cost of the trip with the government's very deliberate decision to underfoot social housing, or their failure to deal with an increasingly wasteful health service, is nothing short of blatant opportunism. And I will, of course, put a link there in the description for this also. Since I mentioned it, I opt to share it. Now, what do we got here? Make you a mod so you can post links. Okay. Yeah, you know, I'd love to do that, but I don't know how. It's been a while. It's been a while. The Pope is the head of all corporate entities. Yeah. You know, I would suggest that that's a deep rabbit hole, but there is actually something to be found at the bottom of it. Make person moderator. That's the word. YouTube live chat. Okay, come on. You got to be able to help me here. Like very fast, snippety snip. Add a comment moderator to your channel. Okay, yeah, that's better. Come on. Oh my god. You're annoying, you are. I didn't even realize I was on the right one. Come on. Oh man, I can't believe this. Okay. If you have yeah, man, I don't know how to do this. It's made for Americans. It should not be hard. Here, look. Okay, participants. Okay. No. Yeah, you know, you would think that it shouldn't be hard, but, you know, when it comes to something where the end result is you giving them money, oh, it's so easy. But when it comes to something like, expressing your freedom of speech, then they're going to make it a little difficult. So you see, I don't know if I'm using the Creator Studio Classic. Okay, sign into YouTube. On the top right, Creator Studio. Select Community. In the moderator, insert the YouTube your channel URL. Okay, so I need your channel URL. You know what? I'm just going to play some music, and then I'm going to figure this out. Okay. Let's see. Music that people don't own. You know what I mean. Music that I'm not going to be booted off of the internet for using. I think a little Nathan Payne wouldn't go so bad. This is Nathan Payne. He's a great American artist. This is Wild Hearts Forever.
Wild hearts confined to the heavens. Wild hearts on a wing. Wild hearts like triple red sevens or a full house aces and kings. Wild hearts like oncoming traffic. Wild hearts like a pinball machine. Wild hearts forever and then some. Wild hearts running free. Tonight's the night we cast off from the harbor and sail away past the pier. Wave goodbye to the old familiar mainland. We're all castaways here, and our course may be charted in stickers on a dingy bathroom wall. But wild hearts without no faith ain't no wild hearts at all. There's a mutiny deep in my chest, in the space where the dirty rats crawl. But wild hearts without no faith, they know wild hearts at all. Wild hearts float like a feather on the edge of the ferry.
I did it. Okay, sorry, Nathan Payne. I did it. You're a moderator now. After all of that hard work, I actually figured out how to make somebody a moderator in this fucking thing. Alright, yeah, let's Yeah, and I did try to right click on the chat window thing, and there's just no fucking options. So much for Web 3.0, where everything's supposed to be connected together, and Aye. Yeah, so how do we wrap this up, huh? Oh no. Oh, dark news. Okay, if you are just joining me and you weren't around for when I covered the Drew Harris appointment as Garda Commissioner of Ireland, yeah, the genocidal maniac, well, here we go. Any minute now, the internet will start working in my favor. Now, I'm just fucking figuring this out now. High Court dismisses action to block Harris appointment. I am almost to the point of where I just want to vanish into thin air, because I hate this country with a fucking passion, man, and I hate all of the fucking cunts who have betrayed it. This is fucking obscene. The High Court has dismissed an action aimed at blocking the PSNI's Deputy Chief Constable Drew Harris from becoming the next Garda Commissioner. Stop in there a second. He didn't even spend any time as Garda. Wow. That's progressive. Kieran McCart, whose grandmother Kathleen Irving was one of the 15 people killed at McGurk's bar in Belfast in December 1971, had asked the High Court... Jesus Christ, way to minimize a fucking legal movement. Asked the High Court to judicially review the government's decision to appoint Mr. Harris. In his judgment, Mr. Injustice Dennis MacDonald said McCart had not reached the legal threshold required that would allow the challenge to go before a full hearing of the High Court. That's just a fucking cop-out, Mr. fucking Dennis Donald Duck fuck. While Mr. McCart has the right to appeal the ruling of the Court of Appeal, the decision clears the way for Mr. Harris to take up his role as Garda Commissioner. The state had opposed the application and argued Mr. McCart's action was unstatable, novel, and should be dismissed. In proceedings against the Minister for Justice, Ireland, and the Attorney General, Mr. McCart had sought various orders, including one quashing the decision to appoint Mr. Harris as Commissioner. He also sought various declarations, including that the state is obliged to conduct independent investigations into murders of Irish citizens where there is credible evidence of collusion. He further sought a declaration that due to his obligations under the UK's Official Secrets Acts, that his role in the protection of the PSNI and the RUC and other agencies in the UK, Mr. Harris would be incapable of controlling an independent investigation into the murder of Irish citizens where collusion between loyalist terror gangs and British security forces was alleged. The state, represented by Remy Farrell, SC, argued Mr. McCart's case was unstateable, and even when taken to its heights was nothing more than an expression of an opinion. That fucking enrages me. That the applicant does not agree with Mr. Harris's appointment. Oh man, I'm not going to read this on any further. It just pisses me off. I told a friend of mine, post that link again without putting a space between YouTube and com, okay? I was telling a friend there, yesterday actually, that if the court doesn't quash this appointment, then we're fucked. It's officially the end of our country. I really think that this is the case. That the people who are supposed to protect us have utterly failed us. What am I supposed to do? Me as an Irishman, me as an individual. What do you think I'll do? Huh? Or what do you think I can do? As Zero Infinity says, it's all a smokescreen. Yeah, it's smokescreen upon smokescreen upon smokescreen. There's always some kind of fucking game being played by these people. Always some kind of fucking game. It enrages me. Let me just grab a linky link there for... Fuck. Where's the link to this show? Right, here we go. I'm going to get another fucking pale ale. Amber ale. If there's any time for a fucking Irishman to drink, it's fucking now. I do like this amber ale, even though it's fucking poison. But yeah, Smokescreen, just like everything else, I guess. Because, you know, how are we supposed to expect impartiality from an investigation into collusion when it involves the giant country next to us, with or without Mr. Drew Harris? I'm absolutely fucking appalled here. Yet I have to recognize that the key is to survive the fall of civilization, says Zero Infinity. Yeah. I think you're right about that one. There's no point in running around. As Michael Tsarian said, rearranging the furniture on the Titanic when the whole thing's just going to fucking sink anyway, that maybe the best policy is to just take it easy. Don't lose one's fucking mind over it. And, yeah, I don't know. Stock up on tinned food. I don't know. Learn a trade. Make things with wood. Learn about edible plants in the surrounds. Love your family. Make friends. But make the right friends. Make a new family. Not in the hippie kind of way of, where you go and find a group of equally lost souls and take a bunch of drugs with them. No, more of like find a good man or good woman or, whatever the corresponding to your genital is, and make a family. Try to include your elders in that family, you know. Don't shift your elderly off to some fucking farm where they'll just be extorted for money until they die, left to just rot in loneliness and obscurity. You know, try to avoid having your children go to these fucking horrible schools where they sexualize your children. You know, it's really fucking hard. It is really fucking hard. I've only recently come to the point where I think that, you know, maybe, you know, just maybe, I could see myself having a few children with someone. I don't know. I wouldn't say my standards are low at this stage, but like, I'm not looking for the one. I'm looking for the one that, you know, is smart and can handle shit, and, you know, has reasonable genetics. That I'll settle with. But then, right? You know, I know what I can offer to a young person. I figured that out. That's what I mean by I've actually come to a point now where I can actually say, yeah, I know how to raise a young person reasonably more than my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation. But there's a lot of shit out there, man. Oh, hey, Maddie, it's about time. I saw you again. It's been, 3 years? Where the fuck have you been? But as I was saying, there's a lot of fucking shit out there. A lot of shit out there. Like, just blatant sexualization of children. Brainwashing in schools. They want to fucking stab a million fucking needles in young children. I don't know how healthy that is. I don't think it's very healthy at all, but will I be given a choice of whether I have my child stuffed full of fucking things that I don't even know what they are? Even if there is a label on the fucking thing, why should I trust that? Oh, but it's a fucking crime to ask questions and be skeptical of power. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We live in the Soviet fucking Union. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to doubt. And that's the fucking environment our children are going to grow up in. That children today are growing up in. Are you fucking joking me? I'm going to fucking bring a child into that, but what's the choice? I think that if given the opportunity, if it presented itself, I think I should. But still, oh my god, man, this is horrific. What can I do to speed up the process of the collapse of civilization? That's my next question. What can I do to ementize the eschaton here? Maddie said, every time I checked out the show it was music for 40 minutes. Are you sure you were showing up at the right time, Maddie? 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. Maddie says, yeah, I agree. Let's just speed up the collapse. But how? Infinity Zero says, just be like everybody else. Do you want to qualify that? I don't want to be like everybody else. Holy shit. That's a scary prospect, man. I do often, sometimes dream of like having a normal life, but I you know, like I don't think that's allowed in this time anymore, you know, unless you're under like a heavy amount of fucking self-delusion. You know, I'm talking about like just, you know, I've got my widescreen TV and, you know, my 3-bedroom house and 2 or 3 children or whatever. It's a nice little place, and it's a little bit outside the city, you know, like a good few miles, 40 miles say. You know, but that's okay because I've got 2 cars and, you know, a wife who loves me, and or at least a cat or dog who loves me, and yeah, I just keep that in order, and I have my business on the side, or you know, I'd work 5 days a week. I don't care, but not in this fucking shithole. Maddie asks, have I been stacking silver? No, because I have absolutely no confidence in silver. I don't think anyone really in the right mind does when it comes to like a collapse situation. Like, who wants silver? Really? The only reason why we want silver is because other people want silver. And why do those other people want silver? Well, because the banks want silver. And women want silver. A few men as well, on occasion. Every now and then, a man wants silver. But mostly women and banks want silver. And when shit collapses, I don't think we're going to be having many banks around or a whole lot of jewelry. He says, just be a transgender like everyone else, nerd. Chop that thing off and join the New World Order. No, but this is a serious question, guys, that needs to be answered. What does a man do? You know, I guess just carry on. You know, find a place to live. Hope that that attracts a reasonable mate, and she's not a complete fucking psycho. Yeah. I guess that's all. That's all that's left to us. That's what we're resigned to. Hope. I was brought up, and we were brought up like this, that, you know, it wasn't about hope. You know, it was about working hard and doing what you gotta do, you know, what you're told to do, basically. And then you get everything. Everything will be handed to you in time, as long as you keep working and believing the way you should believe. Towing the line. But hey, I'm going to sign off because I'm still pretty zapped from the flu that I had last week, and I need to take it easy. And it's getting close to my bedtime anyway. The one upshot of this flu, aside from being able to get a whole lot of rest, you know, just because my brain just didn't work for me anymore the way I would like it to, and my body just ached so much I didn't feel like doing anything at all. It kind of forced me to lay on my ass, literally lay on my ass. Sometimes I sit up on my ass, and that gives me the illusion that I'm awake and active in the world. But no, I was forced to lay on my ass there for about 4 days, and I watched television for the first time in years. Gave me a little bit of relaxation. And then that's one thing that it allowed me to do. It allowed me to just relax and stop engaging. And what did I do once I stopped being sick? As soon as I stopped being sick, as soon as possible, I got right back up again, and then subjected myself to exactly the same environment that made me sick in the first place. Yeah, because I'm hardcore like that. I'm a busy man, putting together the anti-broadcast every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Irish time, over at evrn.net. I'm working on a piece, actually a 2-part series on the pedophile hunters in Ireland. I'll just type in the URL to the magazine here into the chat. That will also be in the description, as well as all of the links for the things that we've discussed. Let's just take a peek through this again. See what we've been talking about here. Come on, scene 2. Wow, my broadcaster froze. Alright, so yeah, we looked at this touching story about how a farmer's auction remained silent so a young man in Cornwall could buy back his family home after it was stolen by the banks, I presume. Very touching. I thought I would start off the show with that because it's some good news. We had an update on this one. MI5 agent in the center of collusion back in the mid-70s that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of innocent people. He is appointed to the Garda Commissioner post, but we also got an update on that where the court had dismissed the request to squash his appointment. We talked about Sally Noggin, occupation of a building not very far from a school, and also in the smack bang in the middle of a neighborhood. That was taken out on a 10-year lease, planned to turn into a rehabilitation center for pedophiles. So that was funny. We looked at the Burkean Times. They have a very good piece on how Sinn Fein are not nationalists. They're about face into SJW land. An agnostic perspective on the Pope's visit. We took a look at that. So all those links will be in the description when the live feed ends. Okay, okay. One last thing, right? Okay. Maddie asks, is there anywhere I can catch some previous broadcasts? Yes. On evrn.net/shows/the-anti-broadcast. You can also look up the Anti-Broadcast Vault on YouTube here. I'll also provide a link to that. There you can catch some previous shows. I don't upload all of the shows because, I'm obligated to do a weekly show, but I don't always have a heap of good material for them. So there you go. One thing I will point out that before I hit off the live stream, I am attempting to build a Discord server, and I say attempting because you need people to get people. That's the way it goes. People show up at a chat room and there's nobody there and nothing happening. They're going to leave, or they're going to sit idle, and then nothing ever happens. You could have 100 people just sitting idle doing nothing. You've got to have some momentum. So if you guys could look in the description, join the Discord channel. A lot of cool stuff there we're going to do. I'm going to collaborate on projects, research projects, etc. Stay up to date with the station, all that cool stuff. So good luck, guys, out there in the wilderness. Good to see you once more, Maddie.